Hello and welcome to PharmaTelevision News Review. We're here in SACS conference in Basel in September 2016. On this show, I have Laurent Nguyen, who's the CEO of a company called Sensorion, which is based in France. Welcome.
Good morning, Fintan.
Now you're an interesting company because Sensorion is a company that focuses on inner ear diseases, complications. And you're also a publicly listed company. So the first question really is, why did you move into this very, very narrow, specific area to develop your biotech company?
There are several reasons. First of all, in ear disorders, we are talking about very disabling diseases leading to vertigo crisis, hearing loss, tinnitus. It's very interesting to see that today there's nearly no drug treatment to address these diseases, and there's a huge, huge unmet needs. So this is the first reason for me. I'm an MD by training, so really what I like is to work in the pharma industry when you can bring something that is going to change the picture. And there are really two other reasons. The first one is from a personal standpoint. I come from the big pharma sector, and I operated in oncology, metabolic and cardiovascular diseases, a very, very crowded areas with a lot of very good people operating. And here I could see that in this field it's really an emerging space. There's no big pharma yet, a few biotechs operating, so clearly an open space for whoever is willing to change the game. And the third reason is pretty clear. Now we have some starting points, understanding better the physiopathology of inner disorders in order to really start running programs. And Sensorion is the right opportunity because Sensorion is a spin-off, at the origin is a spin-off of an academic research unit from France, from INSERM.
So it's the science, obviously, that you're looking at the disease state. So to really hit this area correctly, you need to understand the disease, the underlying diseases, in other words, the underlying science to that particular part of the ear, the inner ear.
Clearly, biology, starting point. You need to understand what you're doing, and you need to have the perspective, and the perspective is pretty clear.
Yeah, so biology is very important, but money is also very important when you're exploring this. So maybe we'll come back to the science in a little bit, because the way you've funded the business is quite interesting too. So as I said, you're a listed company in Paris. Just tell us that story and how you funded your company.
The company is started by being private VC backed, as many other spin-off, as you can imagine. And then it come to a point where we needed cash to run the platform and to build a pipeline of products. So we are a platform company with a pipeline of products. We have already 3 programs running. And clearly there are some limitations, especially when you operate in France and in Europe, limitation to get private money that are not dedicated to a single asset company. So we wanted to really have the resources to expand and address the whole area, not only hearing loss, but also vertigo and also tinnitus. So we did the dual track. Basically, we continued to discuss with private VCs, and we prepared for IPO. And basically, in 2015, we could benefit from a window that was positive for French biotech, and we moved into that. So now it's really a situation where we are a publicly listed company. We raised 8 million at the IPO, and right after we did 2 private placements in the US, because IPO gave us credibility and visibility that we needed. So I would say that the IPO was really a triggering point to get proper financing. Yeah, the proper financing to run the operations. The mandate of the company is to find new drugs.
Right.
Financing is a mean, but financing is...
so the cash position today is approximately what?
Well, we raised 20 million last year, euros, and we have an equity line open for 20 more. So clearly this is money that we have that will allow us to move into phase 2 with our 2 first program.
Right. So let's move to the science, the biology and the therapeutic approach. So your first, you said you have a product, when you did the flotation, you had a product in phase 1, which now you're funding to get into phase 2. Tell us more about that product and why you selected it, where it came from.
At the origin of the company, we licensed the rights of 2 patents that are owned by INSERM. So basically 2 approaches, scientific approaches of the disease. So the first program is an H4 antagonist. So it's acting on the histaminergic pathway. And we have generated very, very interesting preclinical data, proof concept data, before moving into phase 1. So this product is really acting on all the models we have that are reproducing vertigo syndrome. So the first program, we are now preparing for phase 2 entry, since we have just received FDA clearance to run clinical trials in the US. And they will be tested to treat the acute vertigo crisis. That's the first program.
Just on that, developing a clinical program for such an indication. I mean, is there a strong experience track record of companies going there? Because you've chosen this area which has been underexploited, one would say. So working with the FDA and so forth for determining what type of clinical endpoints you want to go for. How much of that was a challenge, let's say?
It's a challenge. It's a very exciting challenge, because we know we're moving into a new field. There has not been so many clinical trials done, so you have to do things right from the beginning. So there are some rules in our industry. Preliminary discussion with regulatory authorities, having the right KOL to define the study design and the endpoints is extremely important. But as you are moving to change the game, I can tell you everybody is extremely interested to join and help you to define what exactly it needs to be done when it comes to clinical trial. So today it's a challenge, but exciting challenge, and we are not alone, and we're moving with in coordination with the regulatory authorities and the KOL that are helping us on that. And the other thing is you have to be very clear and very serious in the trials you are running. As an example, the first trial we run, phase 1B, we included 100 healthy volunteers in a phase 1 trial in order to make sure that we know about the clinical tolerance, we know about the PK profile, and we added a vestibular stress test in that study. So phase 1B of 100 healthy volunteers give the tone of what we intend to do very seriously in this field.
And how's the drug being delivered? Is it an oral?
It's an orally active drug.
Right.
So clearly we know that there are other companies that are pursuing other route of administration, namely transthypanic administration. We believe it's interesting, but it will limit the use of the product, because you need certain conditions, you need an ENT doctor to use it. We want to give the patients maximum access, easy access to the product. So we are delivering orally active drugs, and we measure in our platform the ability of the drug to reach the inner ear where it should be active.
Okay. So that, just remind us, that product has moved into phase 2, or is about to move into?
It's about to move into phase 2. What we announced is that we will have a first patient in before the end of the year.
Okay. And then that brings us on to the second product that you've got clinical development. Describe that.
Second product is based also on work that has been initiated at INSERM, and it's a product that is able to limit the lesional process that can affect the inner ear. Inner ear is a very little organ composed of the vestibular and the cochlear, responsible for balance and auditory functions. This is tissue, a neurosensorial tissue, that you need to protect, but it can be damaged by a degeneration process. So this particular product, the second program we have, is addressing this lesional process to stop it.
Okay. And where is that in clinical development?
So we same process. We did extensive preclinical work to prove to get the proof concept in animals in different models of vertigo and models of hearing loss. We have just completed phase 1 package, and now we are discussing with the regulatory authorities in order to prepare for the next step, which is phase 2 entry.
Right. And translation from animal studies into humans, particularly in this particular area, how difficult is that? And even, how do you do your animal clinical trials?
So we have worked on the platform for more than 10 years now. I mean, starting with the early days within INSERM, and clearly we work on the validation to get this model as close as we can from human pathology. Prediction per se of animal models is limited in our industry. It's not true only for one area, it's true for across all the areas. So what is very important, especially for us, as we are going into this emerging segment, is to leverage back whatever we generate in human into the platform to to continue to validate the model. So predictivity, I think, is the same as other disease areas, as we have seen in other areas, but we are going, because we have the pipeline of the platform and we are generating clinical data, we are going to leverage back into this, and that is going to really strengthen the value of the platform.
Right. So the platform, part of the business model and strategy is to have a platform which then operates within this very specific field, so you become a knowledge-built business. And that brings us back to the IPO and what you said earlier to me before we got on the air, and that is how by being a publicly listed company, you're better at having a portfolio rather than a single product, because when you're publicly quoted, obviously you want to have a much longer term strategy to deliver back to your clients. So without doing an IPO, being stuck with VCs, you probably wouldn't be able to develop the business model that you've got now. So doing an IPO was very important, as I understand it, for you to develop the business model that you've got right now.
Fintan, you raised just several questions. I think there are two main dimensions. The first one is the inner ear disorder field. Today there's a need for multiple products. So the vision is clear, is I want to address inner ear disorders, and I'm going to provide several solutions, different solutions for different target population. That's the first thing. Vision is pretty clear. The second answer is clear as well. Yes, the IPO was a triggering point to raise the visibility and to allow the company, through the financing and the possibility to refinance the company down the road, to really consider having the resources to bring different products on the market. And it's a model of financing that is related to the vision of the company. If the company would be different, for instance, a single asset company, probably financing mode would have been different, and other routes like private VC or stay private would have been a good solution. But clearly, when you look at the vision, we adapted the financing strategy, and the IPO was key.
Right. But the other element of this, of course, is that you're listed in France. Your private placement was taken from money from the US.
Correct.
So it's multifaceted. I mean, that's what I find interesting about your approach.
Well, what is interesting is now that the biotech, they have more alternative for financing, and being listed in France or in Europe doesn't mean that you will be limited in your ability to attract shareholders from overseas. And we have seen a lot of US investors coming to Europe because science is good, valuations are not too high, whereas in the US valuations were quite high. So they are finding good science and good people in the maturing European biotech sector. So it's not a surprise. And when you look at the need for cash, when you are in capital development, so to say, running into phase 2 trials and maybe down the road willing to implement phase 3 and registration trial, definitely you need to access to deep pocket, and Europe is not enough for us.
Yeah. So just finally, you have a portfolio. We mentioned two. We'll finally mention the third product you've got.
So the third is a younger program. It's still in preclinical selection, but it's addressing a very interesting indication because some patients receiving chemotherapy for cancer treatment, chemotherapy containing cisplatin treatment, for instance, cisplatin can be extremely toxic, ototoxic. So just imagine a kid at the age of 2 or 3 that is receiving a chemotherapy treatment for his cancer, and more likely to survive, which is a good thing, but survive as disabled adults because the inner ear will be heavily damaged by cisplatin treatment. So clearly here there's an unmet need. What we want to do is to prevent the ototoxicity of cisplatin while preserving the cisplatin activity. So basically to make sure that any kids that survive will survive running a normal life. Because if you are not hearing, if you have dizziness while you are acquiring knowledge, when you are socializing with people as a kid, then there's a clear need.
I suppose the question is, I mean, obviously the inner ear is not just the only organ that gets affected by chemotherapy and can have a disability effect. So what is it about your product that makes it very specific and specifically useful for reducing damage to the inner ear?
Okay, there are different ways to limit the damage on normal cells of chemotherapy. If you consider kidney or other organs, what is specific to inner ear is that as you use cisplatin at the proper dose, you will kill the inner ear cells. There's a clear relationship.
Right.
So what we try to do is, again, to select a product that will diffuse and concentrate locally in the inner ear in order to be active and basically prevent ototoxicity. That's the mandate we have. And remember that we are a dedicated company to inner ear disease. We are a specialty care company.
Right. And it comes back down to my final question. It's the strategy question, and I suppose I've interviewed lots of people on PharmaTelevision, and we talk about strategy. I suppose one thing about your company is very clear. You're straight down one very specific area,
Yes.
which is the inner ear. So taking that strategy forward, I mean, what are we going to see now from you over the next few years? What's the news flow that we expect to see coming from your company?
Okay, so there will be, I would say, three types of news flow. The first one will be the progress of the clinical development program. So phase 2, and clearly what we want to is to have a readout within the next 16 and 24 months on the phase 2 that we are going to initiate. The second type of news flow will be about the exploitation of the platform. And I think we are going to prepare the next generation product as well, either targeting new targets or improving on the first program. And remember that we are going to leverage back whatever we learn in clinical development with the first program to prepare the next generation. And this is very interesting for the pharma industry. So that leads to the third type of news flow, is now that we have this platform up and running and this program progressing to clinical development, we are clearly open to develop collaboration, very specialized collaboration, rather co-development, that kind of thing, with pharma industry, because they will be interested not only in the program but also in the platform, and we will be able to provide a package for them. You know, if they want to jumpstart into inner disorders with a first and second program and understanding how you're going to improve that.
Right. And I pronounced your company Sensorion, and you pronounced it in a very French way. You pronounced it as?
Sensorion.
It sounds much better than my version. Laurent, thank you very much indeed for coming on the show.
Thank you, Fintan.
PharmaVentures, experts in deals and alliances.